Good morning. I guess I'll just start by saying I think I'm coming up on close to a year. The World Championships are going on right now. And at that point I had just been hired and grateful for the opportunity from David and the ownership group to come here to Nashville and be the head coach of the Nashville Predators. Having not had much experience in the West, my eyes were wide open with regard to the upcoming season, with regard to our players, the community, the fan base, and the organization. I can tell you that after a year gone by now and having the opportunity to work with everybody that I just mentioned, what a terrific choice, and grateful for the opportunity, because it was, for me, it was a terrific year and a great opportunity to work with great people and great players. I'd be remiss if I didn't just talk about our fan base for a second, because I really believe that probably in all my years this is just one fun building to be in, and the support that we got through the course of the year from our fans is second to none. There were so many nights where I felt like the fans really picked us up and gave us life. I felt like it was a great working relationship for the most part. I think our guys really laid it out on the ice night after night, and you know, the building became full, it became alive, there was great energy, and certainly I'm grateful for that. I know the players were grateful for that, and our organization is also grateful for that. When we started, you know, a year ago, and maybe I met you all for the first time, we talked about bringing a brand of hockey that would be exciting to play, that would it would be fast, it would be on the attack, the fans would like it, the players would like it, and hopefully and ultimately bring us success. Success, I think, is defined in different ways. We had a goal. I think that there's always, you need to go in steps when you set your goals, but you know, ultimately, the ultimate goal was to win a Stanley Cup. I can tell you that, and I said it the same way to the players yesterday, we can put it right on the table right now. We're disappointed. You know, it leaves a pit in your stomach, and that I can speak for everybody. I think I can speak for the fans. I can speak for the players, and the managers, and the coaches. When you invest a lot, it hurts a lot. So we're in a position today where we're licking our wounds a little bit. We're getting over the fact that we fell short of our ultimate goal. You know, along the year, through the year, and along the way, I think we did a lot of good things. Certainly our regular season, we finished 6th overall in the National Hockey League. There was, inside of that, there's always highs and lows, but if you look at it and package it in an 82-game season, certainly that's an accomplishment. It found our way back to the playoffs. It found ourselves in a position where we're top 10 in the National Hockey League, and it's something that we fought for every day. We talked about every day from the start of the year. We talked about winning our division, winning our conference, being the best team in the National Hockey League, and winning a Stanley Cup. Those conversations never waived for our group, and there was a belief on all of them that we could be successful doing that. Along the way, in the course of that year, I can't tell you how proud I am of the players for the way that they played, the way that they handled themselves on a daily basis, in the public, in the community, the charity work that they did, and certainly their on-ice play. There was a lot of good things that went on. We had great leadership. I said from day one, and you guys heard me say it many times, from day one the scoop started working. It has to be, I think that has to be led internally by a group of leaders, and we have terrific leaders in our room, starting with Shea Weber, the captain of the team. You know, I think that Mike Fisher, it was so good to get him back in the lineup coming off of his injury. James Neal, Paul Gostad, Eric Nystrom, Matt Cullen. a young leader like Roman Yossi, who's really proving himself to be an elite defenseman in the National Hockey League, and will be fun to watch in the years to come. But also handling some of the leadership responsibilities as we were dealing with injuries down the stretch. These guys are good guys that came to work every day. They were a pleasure to coach. You know, once you make the playoffs, the regular season's over, and so everything shifts at that point to the playoffs and your opportunity to win a Stanley Cup. Having stated the disappointment that we all feel today, again, I'm proud of our guys. I think that they played extremely hard in that playoff series. I think that they gave everything that they had. I think that they're a resilient group. They cared, they worked, and I think I mentioned to David, if there was one point in the playoffs where maybe I wish we could have redone it, or maybe played just a little bit better, it would have been the third period in the last game. I thought maybe we lost our punch there a little bit. Maybe it was an accumulation of I don't know how many periods we played before that, with the triple OT and the double OT and double shifting guys because of injuries that happened through the course of the game. But you know, that last 20 minutes, it didn't have the same pop that it did for the rest of the playoffs. But their belief was excellent, their work ethic was excellent, and we lost. And that's what we were dealing with, you know, 2 days ago, dealing with yesterday, dealing with today. And as we move forward, I think that we'll look back on the year as a lot of positive things and a building block, a place to start, where this group can now say, with all the young players that we have, a chance to move forward and get better from here. So I really enjoyed coaching this year. I enjoyed working with these players, working with management. I love the fans, I love the building, and you know, it was a real solid year. It's always 29 teams, I think, I would hope anyway, are disappointed at the end of the year, because ultimately it's about winning a Stanley Cup. So we're a little bit disappointed, but I'll tell you, I'm proud of our guys, and I'm proud of our organization. I love the community, the fans, and the building, and what it brought, and I'm very excited, looking forward to next year.
Thank you, Peter. Now we'll turn it over to David for an overview.
Just following from Peter, I mean, this truly was a year of moving forward. You've heard me talk in the past couple of years, but essentially for me, this was the second year of a retooling of our team and our whole organization. In 12-13, I think I recognized that our team wasn't good enough, and we needed to change the direction of our team, both on the ice and maybe in the back of my head eventually off the ice. In March 13, we acquired Philip Forsberg. In June of 13, we drafted Seth Jones. In the summer of 13, we got some free agents: Matt Cullen, Eric Nystrom, Victor Stahlberg, and Carter Hutton. 13-14 didn't go quite as we'd planned. I think most of that has to do with the fact that Pekka Rinne had his hip surgery and missed 51 games. So we continued our retooling. In March of 14, we acquired Cal Yarncroft for David Laidlaw. Last May, we began a whole series of moves tied to our retooling. We hired Peter, we hired Kevin McCarthy as our coaches, and in June, we made a trade for James Neal, and at the draft, we drafted Kevin Fiala as our first-round pick. In July, we signed Mike Rivero and Anton Volchenkov. With Peter in charge, we had a different direction, and we had several different goals, all of which would hopefully lead us back into the playoffs. If you remember when we started this season, from TSN predicted us to be in 9th in our division, 20th in the West. The New York Post picked us for 10th and 20th in the West. USA 9th in our division, 17th in the West. Anyway, you get the pictures. I don't think the expectations were very high outside the organization, but they certainly were inside the organization. And with Peter, in a sort of review of what took place here in the last couple of years, we sort of set some internal goals. And first one was to get a strong start, and we got a strong start. We're 15-5-2 by Thanksgiving. I think that certainly put us in a position to give us a run for the playoffs. We needed to be better 5-on-5. A year ago, we were -21 5-on-5. This year, we're +35. We needed to improve our divisional play. There's not a chance you can make it in the playoffs, in my opinion, if you don't play well in your divisions. A year ago, we were 12, 13-4 in our division. This year, in the Central Division, the toughest division in the National Hockey League, we were 15-9-5. We needed to reestablish our home ice advantage here at Bridgestone Arena. This year, we're 28-9-4, second best record in the National Hockey League at home. But Peter's philosophy, strategy, style, if you will, we wanted to be more offensive team. We went from 18th in goals for to 13th in goals for, and we outshot our opponents by more than three shots on an average per game. We wanted to be better and stronger defensively. A year ago, we were 24th in the league defensively. This year, we're 8th in the league defensively. We ended the season with 9 more wins and 16 more points than a year ago. It was the third best record in our franchise history. From breaking down the players, if you will, by goal, Beckett is back. Beckett is a finalist for the Vezina Trophy. In my view of our team, Beckett, with his swagger, the way he played this year, he gave us the confidence and the belief, if you will, to get our season going in the right direction. Carter Hutton played very good as a backup for us. Our goaltending is as good as anybody in the league. Shea Weber, our captain, will have a full recovery from his knee procedure. We all know he's one of the best defensemen in the world. And I think what the rest of the world found out, Omer Yossi, Seth Jones, Matthias Ekholm, Ryan Ellis, make up possibly one of the best defense corps in the National Hockey League. And these guys, we have a chance to keep this defense together for many, many years. Our defense was the second highest scoring defense in the National Hockey League, 193 points. We had 2.35 points per game. Our forwards were led in scoring by rookie Philip Forsberg. Mike Ribeiro was a great addition. He was ranked among the top in the NHL in assists. Forsberg, Smith, Neal, and Wilson all scored 20 goals. Mike Fisher got 19 goals despite missing 20 games. In a nutshell, we've rebuilt our foundation. As Peter said, we have great leadership led by Shea Weber, Fisher, and others. I think Pecorino falls into that. And we now are anchored by a group of young players. I mean, to me, led by Forsberg and Jones, and there's others. I mean, you get to see even a glimpse of the future. Kevin Fiala from the 14 draft played a playoff game for us. Victor Arvidsson played a few games for us. We have an outstanding player that we'd love to get on our team sooner than later, Jim Basie from Harvard, who led the NCAA in goals this year. We've got a couple of players knocking on the door in Milwaukee, Austin Watts, goal decisions. I think will make it tough at training camp and give us that depth and competition that we're looking for. We signed Stevie Moses, who was the leading scorer in the KHL. Last year was 35 goals. So we really feel that the organization has got a good depth. Looking forward for mostly for me and the management side, we're going to be talking to players or specifically agents in the next coming weeks. We have a lot of contractual things we have to deal with. Really in no hurry for this. I want to sit down with our coaching staff in the next couple of weeks and thoroughly go over things on and off the ice, make sure we develop our priorities for the 15-16 season and beyond. Peter and I are going to start exit meetings with the players today and tomorrow to wrap that up, and then we'll start some organization meetings this week and next week to get to those things. A number of players are going to go to the World Championships, which I think is an excellent situation to continue playing hockey at a high level. Pekka Rinne is going to go and play for Finland again this year. Excuse me, last year he went and was the MVP, which really got his year going in the right direction. Seth Jones is going to represent the United States. Roman Josi and Kevin Fiala are going to play for Sweden, and Matthias Ekholm and Forsberg are going to play for Switzerland, and Ekholm and Fiala are going to play for Skau. ass backwards, sorry. This is what we talked about.
I haven't sworn yet. Just you.
Now we have to start all over. At home and Ford, we're going to play for Sweden, which I think is great. Philip's actually the first time for playing for his national team, so good recognition for our players. So as we get ready for next year, I mean, we're still working towards our ultimate goal of winning the Stanley Cup. I mean, we're so much closer than the last couple of years, or even last year. But as I sit here before you, which I've done for the many years, I feel way more comfortable, way more confident in our players, our staff, our coaching staff, belief in our team going forward. So for me, before we go to questions and what have you, I too again really appreciate the coverage that Paul has given us this year, the interest of the Predators in Nashville. I do think I maybe said this last year, but again, I believe it more and more that coming to Nashville was a terrific move for me. It seems just a bit better every year. The interest in hockey, the level of growth in hockey, and the whole city. Traffic's getting a little tight here right now. We've got to work on that a little bit, but everything else is a real plus for I think for the city and the Predators. Let's not forget we have an all-star game here next year, so we've got to make this the best year ever for the Predators and growth of hockey in Nashville. Thank you.
Again, thank you both, David and Peter, for your opening remarks. With that, we will open it up for questions. We have one wireless that we'd ask you to pass around and utilize for the benefit of our broadcast friends. And just as Kevin's getting that ready to go, we'll point out that, as David mentioned, Pekka was the MVP in the World Championship last year. Roman was the MVP 2 years ago. And Roman and Seth have respectively been the best defensemen in the tournament. So Predators have had some good success at the World Championships, which have translated to here. So with that, we'll open it up for a few questions and just wait for the mic. Anyone have any? Adam, get the first.
Just hang on to it, Adam. It's been a good question, Esther.
Thank you. And with that being said, Peter, you mentioned that as a whole, the season was a success when you look at it over an 82-game stretch. But the last 20, 21 games or so, just based on the record, weren't as strong as the first 60. Of course, no team can go 82-0, but we've talked about what the results say on paper versus what you see as a head coach in those instances. What do you make of how the team played down the stretch, and did you feel like the team played better than the record indicated?
It's a good question. It's a really fair question because at one point, 2/3 of the way through the year, we were maybe 6 or 7 points in front of everybody in the league. I don't think that the last 20 games was a complete reflection of our team not playing well. There were certainly some games where sometimes I've seen and I've experienced, I look around the league to other teams who are out in front and not playing some games maybe as they should have or as they had in the past in order to be successful. Of the 11 or 12 games that we lost in regulation, some of the games I liked when we played and went to a shootout, we went to a breakaway skill. I liked the way we played, we lost the breakaway skill. But of those maybe 12 games that we lost in regulation, there was probably 6 to 8 where I knew we didn't play well. The players knew we didn't play well. We didn't have that attack. We didn't have that pop and that jump mentality that we need in order to be successful. And it's something that we try to address and work and fix on a daily basis. I think there were games in there. There might have been half a dozen games in that stretch where, we played the Minnesota Wild and we went toe-to-toe and it went back and forth and we lost by a goal. It was a good hockey game. I would have liked a different outcome or a different result, but I can't necessarily blame it on effort or we didn't give what we needed to give in order to be successful. So there were some games that were just tough losses, I think. I guess that's my. I don't. When the playoffs came around too, I don't necessarily think that the playoffs were a reflection of the last 20. Like I said, I gave you my opinion of the playoffs. Our guys, minus Shea and minus Mike for a lot of it, you know, you're talking about taking out 2 cogs, and I'm not making excuses because, you know, I feel like the guys that we did have in the room and dressed in the lineup, they thought that they were going to win every single game that they played, and they went out and played that way. But removing a couple pieces like that, it stinks. But I don't think that the ending carried over to the playoffs. I thought our guys gave everything that they could in the playoffs. I thought that they didn't quit. They never backed down. And when they lost in double overtime, they were ready to play the next game. When we lost in triple overtime, they were more than ready to play the next game. And I've seen it go the other way, where it just completely deflates a team and takes them down. So the ending, yeah, I mean, certainly there'll be discussion, and we can go back and look at a bunch of different things. But you know, if you're talking about, if you want to keep it in simple numbers, in 12 games that we lost down the stretch in regulation, there were 6 where I thought our guys played hard, and we played in a real competitive hockey game, and we didn't get the results. And then there were 6 where, you know, I wish we'd played a little better. They would say the same thing, I think.
George?
David, do you have to be open in trying to take it to a next level to trading one of the defensemen for a score?
I don't think so. I mean, again, you can always say that's a possibility, but as I sit here, I don't think so. I'd like to obviously sit down and talk to the coaches about any ideas that they might have, and we haven't done any of that. I really think we got a lot of good pieces. We're really close to being there, but I mean, again, I don't want to always default to the same thing, but I want to hear what Peter and the coaches and our other staff think what we're missing. You know, we got to remember what Peter just said. 3/4 of the way through the season, we were the #1 team in the league, and we were 6 points ahead of everybody else. It really felt at that point that we had a legitimate chance to win the Stanley Cup. So we made so many changes, which was part of what I went through here to just show all the amount of changes we've made to get here. And I know we will have some changes, but in no way, shape, or form as many as the last couple of years. And as Peter was answering that last question from Adam, just, you know, part of the thing that we've lacked here a little bit, in comparison to, if you just want to say Chicago, is experience. I mean, just the fact of the playoff race, if you will, of the 82-game schedule. I mean, I could pick on a couple of situations, like Forsberg as a young player, in my mind, hit the wall a little bit near the end of the season for, you know, X number of games. I think he got it back for sure in the playoffs, but he's never played 82 games before. We were just looking at something like, say, our defense versus Chicago's defense. And Chicago, arguably, because it won Stanley Cup, has one of the best defenses in the league, which I would certainly echo. So I looked at their numbers or what have you. We got the lowest number was, I think it was Halmerson at 66 playoff games. When you took Shea out of our lineup, our whole defense didn't have 66 games of experience. So I don't want to react to anything today. I mean, I hope that I'm smart enough and can see it at the time when it's presented to us for that opportunity to take our club to the next level. But I really believe a lot of it's right there in our room. I mean, Forsberg is going to get better. Jones is going to get better. Our whole defense, Ekholm, Ellis. I think we got a nice mix right now.
Robbie?
Coach, Eric Nystrom missed the last month and a half of the season.
Yeah.
What's his injury and where's he at as far as recovery?
His was a high ankle sprain, and I think he would have been ready within about a week or 10 days had we still been playing.
We would have loved to have had Eric in that series. You know, you see the physicality in the series, and I think our guys did a pretty good job of being physical. We mentioned Shea and Mike not being available. You wonder how effective a guy like Eric could have been in his role of leader, first of all, somebody with some experience, because we were very young. But the way he plays the game and the energy that he brings to the ice, he's a big body that can skate and add add a presence in the locker room and add a presence on the ice. And, you know, as you mentioned, Shea and Mike, and you'd be almost remiss if you didn't mention his name as well. We could have used him.
David, you spoke a little bit just about the organizational depth. What is the goal going into the draft, not having the first-round draft pick, in terms of rebuilding the depth of the organization and what you seem to have in there?
Our scout's going to be here Monday for the amateur meeting, so they'll be here Monday through Friday. They, of course, will be a little disappointed that we don't have our first round pick, so they'll be putting pressure on me to see if I can get that at the draft. But I think we've really filled up the cupboard really well in the last couple of years, and that allowed us to make that move at the trading deadline, if you will. I think the way we do things, even without having a first round pick, that we'll probably get a guy that we have highly rated. Like I'm thinking maybe somebody rated 20th, maybe on our second pick, just by the way we're going to do things, trying to be more specific, if you will, to the type of player that we want to get. I mean, it's a challenge to them. They got to fill in the holes there and make up for this, and maybe we can come up with an extra pick to help them along the way. But I'm very confident in our scouting staff done a really good job in the last, always, but especially in the last couple of years. And again, if you follow our draft in the last couple of years, we've been pretty focused on what we wanted to get in the forwards. I mean, Fiala looks like he's going to be the real deal, hopefully in time, and maybe as soon as next year. He's got a strong desire to play. The Kamenev is a player that he just had a shoulder operation. We'd like to bring him over here for the development camp and possibly be signing him for next year. And there's the big center iceman in the future that we'd be looking at. So I think we've got a lot of good things in our organization, and hopefully we'll have a good draft also.
Steve?
David, when you made the deadline deal to get France and Santorelli, did you think at the time that was the deal that could sort of put you over the top? How do you evaluate what they did in their time here? And if I'm not mistaken, I think they're both up. Do you plan to keep them moving forward if possible?
Well, I think we had very thorough discussions with our staff as to what we needed, and our goal was to have one more forward and one more defenseman. There wasn't a huge crop of defensemen. We've also talked about some of our past dealings at the trading deadline in terms of fits and specifically chemistry, and arguably in the past, I think I basically said this publicly, I think we did some things that maybe weren't a perfect fit, if you will, and I think getting France and Santorelli made perfect sense for us because they're Nashville Predator draft picks. They played in Nashville, they knew the city, they still knew some of the players. And from that standpoint, we thought it was as good a fit as we could get. I think, to be very honest, the fact that Francine was a right-handed shot, and we probably had the lefty-righty thing all year was working really, really good for us. The righty-righty thing was not making an excuse, but wasn't a perfect situation for Francine or for us. I think again when Shea went down, Francis got in there, and then he got to play in a lefty-righty situation. I think he played a lot better. Our defense was very good this year, and I think in the playoffs he played better than he did maybe sometimes in the regular season. But it wasn't a perfect fit, to be very honest and bottom line. I think the lefty-righty thing, if we had our choice, and there wasn't a lot of guys. I mean, it wasn't like we didn't know that before we made the trade, but we were hoping it would work out probably a little bit better.
Any other questions? Oh, Adam again? All right.
This is a question both of you can answer. David, you took what people would consider a risk signing Mike Ribeiro last summer after his pretty public divorce from Arizona, but to see how well he played for Peter and his teammates spoke very highly of him. Just wanted to get your assessment on how important he was to the improvement of the team this year.
Well, Peter and I are going to meet with him as we are with all other players and move forward. But from my viewing as a player, it was exactly what the doctor ordered of him, coming into the 1-2 spot, bringing a dimension that I don't think we had. I don't think we don't have Mike Ribeiro. I mean, it's going to be hard making the playoffs because he generated so much offense. He's another guy that how would Philip Forsberg have done it without him? James Neal type of thing. I thought he played just terrific for us. And again, I believe he and his family are very happy here in Nashville. Obviously talked to him a few times during the season, but looking forward to our exit meetings, and hopefully it's a marriage that wants to continue here in Nashville.
Did you want to hear from
Yeah,
Peter
sure.
as well?
If you wouldn't mind, as well.
He was a really good fit on the ice and in the locker room. I enjoyed every single day with Mike. Terrific person, and like David said, seems to fit really well here in Nashville, just with regards to his family and where we're at, the team. We needed him in a lot of situations. Thought he played really good throughout the entire year. I really liked the way he played in the playoffs. He's not a real big guy. You guys have seen him. Not a real big guy, but yet he played a physical game. He brought offense, and he was 100% committed to our team being successful.
Guys, if I could get both of you to comment on this. Shea Weber, before the injury in the playoffs, sat out a couple of games. His production in the last 20 games or so dropped off from his characteristic production. I'm just curious if there was something bothering him. Obviously there was, because he sat out. How long was that bothering? Is there any light you can shed on that to talk about his last quarter of the season in terms of with the team tailing off a little bit?
I'd rather not. He had a little bit of patella tendonitis, is what he had, and it ended up to complicate things. That did not lead the hit and then his eventual subluxation of his kneecap were two separate events. But the rest was because of having patella tendonitis. You as an athlete know that the only, that always goes away. The only thing that helps that is basically rest. And we felt we were at a time and place and we could do that.
I'm good with that.
Anything else? Chris has one. Get the mic to him.
You guys both touched on just the young guys getting experience in the playoffs and then being the core and the foundation for the future. Can you just kind of elaborate on how invaluable this experience was for them going forward and understanding what it kind of means to win playoff hockey games?
Well, it's not even playoff hockey games. We were young all year. You know, we were a young group. I read something. How many under the age of 25?
15 maybe?
That might be high. That might be high. A substantial amount of players under the age of 25 in the regular season to try and qualify for the playoffs and then in the playoffs. And certainly I think experience does play into the playoffs a little bit. I felt like Chicago turned it up in that last period. Not through the series. I didn't really notice it, to be honest with you. The fact that we were young, I felt like our youth and our enthusiasm and our attack to our game really carried us through the playoffs, and we just moved on from game to game, and I was really impressed with that with our group. I think the experience that the players gained of having a successful regular season and the experience that they gained by playing the Chicago Blackhawks to the best of their ability, and you know, even experiencing failure. You can't always be successful. I think sometimes you learn from your mistakes, and sometimes you learn from your losses, and you hope to build from that. And that's the objective, is to, you know, take all of what our young players learned this year and bring that back next year. I said this yesterday, you know, to the players. We shouldn't assume anything. You know, we shouldn't assume that we're going to be fourth in the league next year. We shouldn't assume that we're going to play 3 rounds in the playoffs. It's going to be hard and difficult, especially in our division. We've got a lot of work to do. But what we did do this year is we had a lot of players come in, first-year experiences, and first time on our team, first year with a coach and a new identity. And we experienced some sort of success, and we need to build on that. And we need to work hard to build on that next year.
Steve?
David, understanding that you guys haven't had all your talks yet moving forward, but a couple guys yesterday, Mike Fisher said he'd love to be back, basically said he was planning on being back next year. Mike Ribeiro kind of echoed those sentiments. Are there guys like them, or maybe others, that you're just sitting there right now saying, absolutely, I want that guy back because he's such a key part of our core?
Yeah, in my mind, I certainly have a roster in my head, but I certainly want to have time to share that with the coach to get his thoughts on it. I mean, you touched on a couple of guys. I mean, specifically, Mike Fisher, we'd love to have him back. I mean, he represents so much to our team, both on and off the ice. I mean, we sorely missed him in the playoffs. Peter already said that, and he's a real leader. And I truly feel that the best place for Mike is here in Nashville, and he can play as long as I'm the manager. He can play as long as he wants. And I think that this is a guy he's already so established in the community. I mean, he's going to go on to bigger and better things, and help the city of Nashville, if you will, or the community of Nashville. He's got a baby now, and
He did say he doesn't want to coach someday. I asked him in the meeting. I said, maybe you'll coach someday, and he quickly said no.
I just want to manage, I think he's got higher aspirations.
Nobody wants to be a coach.
That's right. So, and Rivera, we just got to sit down with these guys. I mean, like we've said, it has the fit and what have you, but we just have to go through this. And I think this is where we're going, but we've got to let the process take us there.
Okay. With that, we'll bring an end to the formal part of the conference.